Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about something unexpected. Somewhere along the way in my retirement, I found myself. And what I mean by that is that I found what I believe is to be the real me, or the most genuine me that I've ever been since I've been an adult. And quite frankly, I don't even know how it happened, but I do know that it's true. I always attributed to finding yourself as something that you did in your 20s or your 30s, or after a life event like, for example, after you've had children, or you've graduated from university, or if you got married, or if you got divorced, or something like that. I never thought that here I would be in my 60s, and that in the span of the last 4.5 years, I would evolve in what I feel is kind of the best me and the most real me that I've ever been. I thought it would be worthwhile to talk about that, to talk about what it is in my retirement that has taken me on this journey, this 4.5, 5-year journey. And I have come to this place where I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. Hi, my name is Raina, and this is Small Retired Life. On my channel, we talk about all of the ups and all of the downs of being in retirement, living our best life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. I believe that life unfolds in chapters, and in each of those chapters, we play a different role. Sometimes we're children who are responsible to the wishes of our parents, and perhaps then we're young adults, and we're just making our way through school or through life or through the globe, traveling. Sometimes we're spouses or partners, we're parents, we're workers, and we're caretakers. And each of those roles shapes who we are as a person, as we kind of travel through that journey we call life. For me, those roles often gave me structure. They really shaped my day-to-day and the types of things that I needed to do on a daily basis, and often revolved around other people. And there were demands on my time, and there were demands on the type of person I had to be, or how I had to act on a daily basis. Oftentimes, those demands weren't necessarily what was best for me or what I really wanted, but they were necessary because of the chapter that I found myself in. As a young parent, I had to look after my children. And as a young adult, I had to find work, I had to earn money so that I could save for my retirement. Those are all chapters that shape us as a person, but they also involve a lot of involuntary acting. So in other words, sometimes we do the things we do because we have to, not because we want to. And we are who we are because there's an expectation of us acting a certain way as opposed to us wanting to be that way. I like to phrase that in a way that basically says that who I was really wrapped up around other people and what they wanted me to be. Then suddenly retirement arrives, and all of these structures and schedules and demands to a certain extent fall away. it definitely can feel like we are a little bit rudderless, I guess. Like we're not quite sure the direction that we're heading because we don't have anyone else's input into it. And if we do, at the end of the day, it's still our decision. I always thought that without all of these things that grounded me, I would be a little bit lost and I would lose myself in the process. And I have to admit, there was a time where retirement kind of scared me. When I initially had the ability to retire the first time, after I got laid off from a job, I went back to work for a year because I couldn't fathom what I would be or who I would be if I wasn't working. I found the situation very daunting and I didn't feel prepared for it. I was prepared for it financially, but I wasn't prepared for it mentally. Once I actually got there and gave myself the time to be retired and to feel my way around retirement, I discovered that there was this me that I didn't even really know was there. It was like I was meeting a slightly new person. I guess that's also maybe not the perfect way to put it. Not that I became a new person, but it's almost like the layers kind of peeled away. And I found a part of me that just had never had the opportunity to really be out there and to shine. And that was kind of an exciting concept or an exciting evolution of the process of becoming retired. One of the biggest shifts in retirement is the rhythm of life. It's that whole slowing down when you're used to working all the time. When you're not retired and you're working, life feels a little bit like a treadmill. There's this constant turning and constant churning out of activity or obligations, going to work. And even when you're on vacation, that sometimes never went away. I remember being on vacation and I never really left work behind. And I was getting emails and I had to deal with issues even when I was on vacation. So I never actually had 100% time to completely let go and to completely focus on not being the work me or the parent me or whatever required me I had to be during that chapter of my life. In retirement, that treadmill stops. And I'm sure if any of you who are retired could look back to that very first day after you retired. Like, think back with me. What was the first thing you did on that very first day? Some of you maybe went on a trip because you felt like you had to plan something for your retirement so that you weren't sitting around. I was trying to think back on my first day when I truly retired. And I have to say that I actually had gone back to school a few weeks before I retired to take a diploma just for fun because I couldn't fathom just doing nothing. I thought I have to be busy, I have to be doing something. So even though I was retired, I got up in the morning and I remember thinking, wow, great. Now I'm going to have time to study all day. Honestly, it wasn't until I was retired, probably for about a year and a half, I would say, that I started to really notice the solitude and the quiet and the fact that I was establishing these new little routines and rituals, like getting up whenever I wanted to in the morning or making a cup of coffee and, sitting in my favorite chair, as I always say. I didn't consciously do those things. They just kind of happened when I gave myself the time to be still and allowed myself the time to just be and not burden myself with obligations that are or were being placed on me by the outside realm, so to say, the outside of my little circle. And it actually took a while for me to sit back and say, whoa, I'm retired and I'm all of a sudden doing all of these things and I'm interested in these new things and I'm trying out those things. It did take a little bit of time for me to acknowledge that consciously, because before it was happening probably unconsciously. In that silence and in that peacefulness, I started to notice what was nourishing me, what gave me joy, and what made me immeasurably happy on a daily basis. The things that I really looked forward to and that I loved doing. It was quiet and solitude that allowed me to truly experience the shifts that were happening. When life gets busy, your inner self is drowned by the noise of the things that are happening around you, and you can't hear anything. It's only in stillness and in quiet and in solitude sometimes that you can hear those inner thoughts and you can feel the shifts happening and you can actually absorb some of the changes that happen to be going on during this chapter, this present chapter of your life. And all of a sudden, clarity sets in and you're like, oh, hi. So this is who I am. This is the real me, or the most genuine me that I have known so far. Another piece of this puzzle is expectations. And I've talked about that in other videos, but it's the concept that there's expectations from society, from our family, from our bosses, from the people around us about all kinds of things that have to do with who we are. There's also expectations about things that are very superficial, like for example, what clothes we should wear so that we're considered cool, or what types of car we should drive so that we can look like we're affluent, or how much money we should make, or what kind of a job we should be doing. There are so many societal expectations. Some of them, I don't even know if we consciously absorb. I think they're just out there and we've become so habituated to them that we don't even question them. I mean, some people do. Some people are, they are outside of the box. But generally, people kind of fit into the mold because we don't want to be different. We don't really want to stand out in a way where people will talk. My parents, because I guess they were immigrants, they would always say, just fit in. Like, don't do anything weird, just fit in, don't make any waves, fit into the flow of life. We don't want people talking about us. If any of you are from an immigrant background, I have a feeling you're familiar with this. Let me know if you are. But in retirement, all of these expectations more or less fall away. There is absolutely no one grading you. There is no plus A or, B or C or failing at retirement. Retirement truly is your own decision and it is your own journey. Only you can make it happen and either be happy or not be happy. I believe that this absence of outside pressure is incredibly freeing. And I think that this lack of expectations and this lack of people telling you what to do and how to be actually allows authenticity to sneak in a little bit at a time. And that is why the real you can emerge during this chapter of life, because it has the space. You are giving it the space to do that. And that's why stillness and being still and having some alone time and allowing life to happen is so important, because by doing that, you're actually allowing space for authenticity to come in and to whisper to you very quietly and over a period of time, hey, this is the real me knocking, let me in. Something wonderful happens when you live without those expectations. All of a sudden, you do have the time and you actually have the urge to discover some new things. And I'm not talking about necessarily reinventing who you are and what you are, because I mean, at the base of us, we do have a certain personality and we are who we are. It's more about the embellishment, figuring out what suits you. You know, it's kind of like when you figure out which clothes are the best fit on you. Well, this is the same thing. You have this opportunity to allow some new things in. You have the time to perhaps learn some new hobbies or do something that you haven't done before. And it expands your universe in a big way. I would have never thought of doing YouTube. I mean, I watched YouTube, but I never thought about becoming a YouTuber, or I didn't even think I could. I mean, I just didn't think I had it in me. But because I allowed myself to open myself to opportunities and gave myself the space to absorb new things, I discovered these new aspects of myself that I really enjoy now and that have become a part of who I am, but only because I've given them space to reside. Part of discovering this, I guess, 2.0 or newer version of me includes just taking life a little bit easier, not being so type A. It's this channel. It's cooking simple meals, and it's my knitting and my sewing and my hobbies. It's reading whatever I want and doing whatever crafts I want to do whenever I want to do them. And it also makes me more aware when certain things in life that I don't like start creeping in, because my new personality, or kind of the more genuine part of my personality that has evolved, is definitely a lot quicker to say, whoa, this just does not serve me and I'm not doing this. An example of that is working out. I've been working out and I use this app. And I got to a place where if I didn't do exactly the timing and the amount of exercise that the app was asking, I started to feel kind of like this app was running my life. And this week I was just like, no, I'm just not doing that this week. I'm going to go for extra walks because that's what I want to do. And I believe that before this kind of newer, more genuine version of me came about in my retirement, I would have felt so much more pressure just to keep going. I mean, that was just part of my personality. So I think that you evolve who you are because you've now allowed all of these new things into your life, and that has kind of expanded who you are as a person. The last point I want to make about all of this is that I personally don't believe that identity is necessarily fixed. I believe that there's an essence of who you are. There's like this underlying you. But as I was saying, we were different kind of personalities, or there was different aspects of us that came out at different chapters of our life. And I truly believe that now that I'm retired, I'm allowing my personality and who I am to expand. I'm giving it room to grow. It's not necessarily static. Yes, I'm happy with who I am, and I certainly don't want to change that dramatically. But I want to allow more things into my life, and I want to be open to new things and new aspects of being. if I wake up in the morning and say, oh, this is it for me forever. No, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm happy and I feel truly comfortable with who I have become in this chapter. And I think that comfort and that kind of resilience and the satisfaction with who I am now is also allowing me to be open to expand myself to new things and to new opportunities. That could mean that one day, I might move somewhere else, or I might travel more, or I might do some other things. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm definitely in a better state of mind right now to accept and to deal with whatever is coming my way. I often say to myself, I am still becoming and I am still evolving, but I'm definitely happier with how that process is happening because I have this time and I've allowed myself to be so much more open to evolving who I am as I'm aging. Retirement is definitely not just about hobbies and travel and that type of thing. I mean, it truly is about becoming. It's the ability to reflect on life and to reflect on the opportunities that are presented to us because of the freedom of time and the freedom of not having expectation from others. We can honestly do almost anything that we set our mind to. Thank you for spending this time with me. This is all I have for this week. And as always, I encourage you to carry the discussion on in the comment section. Some of you have such amazing insights and always great tips and comments, so please feel free to write those down. I thank you for watching, and if you like my videos, I post every Tuesday, so I will see you next week at our regular time. Bye!